Good morning, class, and welcome to math. Today is Monday, April 13th. So today we are going to be continuing on where we left off, and that is on Thursday, which is the blue square and black diamond for our geometry unit, which is on page approximately 171, 172 in your Ultimate Math book, and should look kind of like this page. Whoops, it would help if I didn't have the bubbles in the way. So it should kind of look like this page, because remember we did the green square, green circle, bunny hill, and hot cocoa break on Thursday. So make sure you're following along in your Ultimate Math notebook. If you don't have your Ultimate Math notebook, make sure that you're following along on a spare sheet of paper, in a notebook, construction paper, whatever you got is fine with me. Just make sure that you're following along and that you're practicing those math skills. So without further ado, today we're going to do the blue square and black diamond. The double black diamond is a doozy, so we're going to save that one for tomorrow. So let's get started. So this is our blue square. Calculate the volume of each of the rectangular prisms below. We are going to do the first one together, and then I want you to pause. I want you to do the rest of the blue square, and then I want you to come back for the answers. So for this first question, we have a rectangular prism, or a 3D shape, where all the faces or sides are rectangles. I'm copying it down onto my backboard. So one side measures 5 feet. One side measures 6 feet, and one side measures 4 feet. Hang on, I need to update. And 6 feet. Okay, so let's do this together. So remember that when we have a rectangular prism like this, we need to multiply the length times the width times the height. And you'll notice I put that review video in there. You can watch it if you would like to review the process of doing volume and finding the volume of a rectangular prism. It also has some great formulas in there that if you memorize them now will help you in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade as you continue on. So that's just kind of a plug for the other video. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply the length times the width times the height. Now, a lot of students stress out over which one's the length, which one's the width, which one's the height. Remember the commutative property of multiplication. It doesn't matter. We're going to multiply them all together anyway, so we can multiply them in whatever order we want to. So for us, that just means 6 times 5 times 4. So let's do this together. Let's start, because we feel like it, with 6 times 5. Why not? So let's count that out together. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. So my first answer here is 30. I always like to copy it down and copy down the next part, because what I see a lot of students do, especially with multi-step questions like this, is that they do the first part, but then they forget to do the next part. So I always like to copy it down. 30 times 4. So remember that this is one of those situations where we have two whole numbers with 0. So let's sing that together. If I must multiply two whole numbers with zeros, multiply the front digits like normal and add the O's. This is because we're just moving it over the place value system. Because it's base 10, each 0 then just moves it over one space to the left. So happy, again, that my voice is just so lovely on all these videos. That was sarcasm. It's just awful, but we're going to do it anyway, because I don't know any other way to teach. So 3 times 4, we're multiplying those front digits together. Let's do that. I said 4, 8, 12. And then I highly recommend that we still do the thing where we go dot. There's 1 0 in this question, so then there's going to be 1 0 in my answer. So my answer here is 120, but wait, I'm not done, because I needed to include my units. At the beginning of this question, I should have started with this. You need to make sure that all those units are the same. For us, fortunately, in this one, all the units were the same, so we didn't have to do any converting. So this one becomes 120 feet cubed. Remember, perimeter is you just add together all the sides, so the units are just regular. For area, you're multiplying length times width, so our units are squared. And for volume, our units are cubed, okay? So with that, now pause this video, come back when you're ready. We are gonna go through the answers together in just a second. Feel free to pause on this screen so that you can see all the questions if you did not bring home your Ultimate Math Notebook. So at this point, I'm assuming that you have read and done all of the things that you need to do in your Ultimate Math Notebook or on a spare sheet of paper. So let's go through the answers. The first one, like we said, is 120 feet cubed, which just means it has that little 3 or the 3 exponent. The second one, or one to the right, is 17,280 inches cubed. Notice for this one, it had inches and feet, so you did have to do that conversion. For the third one, or one to the right, is 90 feet cubed. On the bottom left is 8 feet cubed. Pay attention to that one because it might come up later. The one in the middle bottom is 2,160 inches cubed. And finally, the last one, let's count it out. Ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, 100,000s, millions, 10 millions, 100 millions. This is 150, 100 millions meters cubed. All right, so now let's move on to our black diamond. So it's saying calculate the volume of each of the rectangular prisms. So pretty simple, but I'm noticing that there are some more complicated numbers in here. Maybe some decimals, some fractions, converting, all that fun jazz. So let's get started. All right, so this first one shows a rectangular prism. Again, remember, a rectangular prism means that all the faces or all the sides of this are going to be a rectangle. Oh my gosh, this is terrible. Not you. My drawing is, as usual, not great. 1/2 foot. So one side is 1 foot, one side is 1/2 a foot, and one side is 1 5/100 inches. All right. So now I'm realizing that this is backwards. 1 5/100 inches. So this is part of the reason that it's really important. I'm going to move this a little closer so maybe we can see. Ooh, just a little better. Okay, so this is why it's really important to start off and go, are my units the same? No, they are not the same. Some of them are feet, one of them is inches. So the first thing that I need to do is convert. Now, some students will be like, well, 2 of them are feet, 1 of them is inches. Why would I convert the feet when there's 2 of them and the inches where there's only 1 of them? But it's actually going to be a lot easier for us to convert feet to inches, mostly because we already know that information. So 1/2 a foot, I don't want to work with decimals and fractions at the same time. I know that a whole foot is 12 inches, right? That's just something we have to memorize. And I know a 1/2 foot, so 1/2 of 12, right? Remember, if this is my full foot and this whole thing is 12 inches, then 1/2 of that, think what plus what equals 12? 6 plus 6 equals 12. And so that's why 1/2 of 1 foot is going to be 6 inches. All right, so what do I need to do in this situation? I need to multiply length times the width times the height. So I'm going to multiply 1.05 or 1 5/100 times 12 times 6. Okay? So remember, because of the associative property, I can change the grouping when it comes to multiplication. So I can multiply these in whatever number order I want, which is the commutative property, but I can also change the grouping. So I'm actually going to multiply these two first. 12 times 2, I know, is 24. So I'm going to write that down. Remember, when you're doing a question like this, my biggest advice to you is to slow down and make sure that you copy down all of that information. So the 1 and 500ths, the 24, recopy it all down. So now we need to multiply. So I'm going to set it up. You're going to solve on your own paper. I'm going to sing along as I solve on my separate whiteboard because I learned last week that trying to do multiplying on here backwards is just not happening for me. So I multiply 1.05 times 24. Okay. And then I want you to solve that on your own paper or your own separate whiteboard as I do it on mine frontwards. All right, ready? So we're going to pretend that decimal is not there. I'm going to start by multiplying the 1. So 4 times 5. So that's 5, 10, 15, 20. Write down the 0. Write it down. Carry it up. Then we move it on over. Then we multiply the tens. Add. So 4 times 0 is 0 plus 2 is 2. Write it down. Carry it up. Then we move it on over. Multiply the hundreds. So 4 times 1 is 4. Then everybody add a 0. So add a 0. You should have the number 420 underneath your answer. Add a 0. So then we multiply the 1. So 2 times 5 is 10. So we write down the 0, carry the 1. Write it down, carry it up, then we move it on over. Then we multiply the tens. Add. So 2 times 0 is 0, plus 1 is 1. Write it down, carry it up. Then we move it on over. And then multiply the hundreds. Add. So 2 times 1 is 2. Write it down, carry it up. Then we move it on over. So for this last step, we're going to add 0 plus 0 is 0. 2 plus 0 is 2. 4 plus 1 is 5. 2 plus nothing is 2. So the answer you should have gotten is 2,520. But wait, remember, we are not done yet. We need to count up our decimals. So in this case, we have 1 decimal, 2 decimals. So I need to go that same direction in my product or my answer to my multiplication question to make sure. So 1, 2. So my real answer should be 25 and 2 tenths or 20 hundredths. So this right here should be my answer to that first one. So what I'd like you to do now is have that independent struggle time. Make sure you ask any questions that you have on Google Classroom, but pause this video, come back. Remember 3, 4, so this next one, do the last 2 questions, and then I will show you the answer key in just a second. So this is our answer key, it says something different here for the first one, which I don't agree with. I just did all that work myself. Ignore the first answer because that one's totally wrong. The one to the right says 33 and 33 hundredths feet cubed, and the final one says 10,758 and 4 tenths feet cubed. So you might have gotten a slightly different answer depending on how you converted. I'm going to double check that first one because that doesn't seem right. Make sure you have this answer, not the one that's written there. And that is our math segment for today. The main thing I want us to do is not stress about whether we got all of those correct, is really focusing on, do I know the process? Am I checking my units and trying to convert first? So what I want you to do, don't panic, and I know who are panicking right now. Make sure you pause, make sure you do the best that you can, and make sure you bookmark it, write down questions if you do have questions that we can talk about later. All right, thank you so much for tuning into math class. I will see you in just a minute for science.